to understand why is all this philosophizing and why is all these sadhanas and why is all these bhajans and sankirtans and everything else needs to happen. The reason being, the Vedic philosophers feel that our constitutional position of us having face towards the material world is primarily because of ignorance. Okay? Ignorance is the primary reason as to why we are stuck in bondage, as to why we are in samsara. Now, we discussed again in Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, we looked at the stages of creation, and just before this talk, we had a very brief discussion, Deval and others, about the stages of creation. And I want to remind you again, so you had the first 5 stages of creation where the Brahmanda, the primordial soup for Brahmanda was made available. So that is the 24 tattvas were created from stage 1 to stage 5. Okay. In stage 6, we said the stage 6 is a very important stage of creation. And the verse in Bhagavatam is very clear. It says, Shashtastu tamasaha sargaha. Yeah. So the 6th stage, tamas means ignorance. Ignorance was created in the 6th stage of creation. Before the pindanda, before the bodies and everything was created, ignorance was created. Now, how did that ignorance come about? Now, again, we discussed the course of creation was first Lakshmi and Vishnu, then Chaturmukha Brahma, then Chaturmukha Brahma did various other things. So when Chaturmukha Brahma was doing creation, then even without his knowledge, the verse says, ignorance was created by who? Prabhoho, it says. Abuddhi kritaha prabhoho. Prabhu there means the supreme controller, who is the Lord Vishnu, Narayana, or Brahman, or Krishna, or whatever you want to call him. So he creates, he brings about, when I say creation, it means he brings about ignorance into existence, okay, in the 6th stage. So ignorance is a key component during creation, because the subsequent stages, the stage 7, stage 8, and stage 9 is how the various living species are created. So once the Brahmanda is created, then the Pindanda, which is the bodies, come about, starting from primordial species of life to the most evolved. So we seem to think ourselves as most evolved humans. And the philosophy there also is the evolution of species is from the most ignorant to the least ignorant. So that is where the evolution of species is in Vedic philosophy. That the amount of ignorance goes in trees and plants, the ignorance is high. In humans, it comes down. So again, I introduced this concept last time as to the creation or the coming about of ignorance in this universe. Now, move to the right side. Now, the next question that we should be asking ourselves is, okay, fine, ignorance was created. Okay, who has ignorance? Okay, does Brahman have ignorance? Does Jiva has ignorance? Is there ignorance between Jiva and Brahman? Is there ignorance between Jiva and the material world? So we need to start thinking about where exactly is this ignorance placed that has led to this samsara or bondage. So that is the next level of philosophical question that we need to ask. Now, coming back to that word ignorance, and the reason why I said, as I said before, ignorance is a key Vedic philosophical concept. And not surprisingly, there are many Sanskrit words that actually tell you about ignorance. There are various synonyms for ignorance. I'll just list a few. I've underlined a few that you might be familiar with. Ajnana, we all know that. Mudata, Kala. Kala is also an important word for ignorance. The reason Kala is an important word is in Prashna Upanishad, the 6th question is, Pipalada Rishi gets asked by the student, what is Kala? What are the coverings of the Jiva? What are the various levels of ignorance of the Jiva? And then he talks about what is called the Shodasha Kalaha. There are 15 instances for the ignorance of the Jivas, and the 16th one is the Jiva, 17th is Lakshmi, and 18th is Brahman. And we discussed that about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Moha, that also means ignorance. Ajnana Bandhana, Avidya, Abuddhi, Tamas. Note the word tamas. Tamas means so many things. There is one meaning for tamas is ignorance. And that is exactly what the sixth stage of creation of Bhagavatam is. As I said, Shashtastu tamasaha. So that means that tamas is ignorance. Okay. Anda. Anda blind, blindness. That is also darkness. So that is also ignorance. Avidyamaya. So there are so many words in Sanskrit that denotes ignorance. So watch out for these words, because when an Upanishad or in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, when these words come around, then you can refer back. Look at Muni's dictionary. So that's a very good online Sanskrit dictionary for you to refer the meanings of Sanskrit words. Yeah. So now coming back to the slide, so we understood that ignorance is key concept in Vedic philosophy. And now we are asking the question, who has ignorance?
HinduKnowledgeAcademy.com will celebrate Vedic culture and present its philosophies to the modern Hindu in an accessible format. Our ancient heritage is our greatest strength. Through preservation and dissemination, together let us spread positivity in the world. Thank you for listening and welcome to Hindu Knowledge Academy.